Hi, this is Kim Reads Urantia, and it is Monday, March 29th. And we're going to start with Light the Flame by Andrew Harvey. Okay, and this is a prayer from the Quran. Okay, may I take refuge with the Lord of humanity, the King of humanity, the God of humanity, from the evil of the slinking whisperer who whispers in the breast of humanity, and from spirits and humanity. Okay, so we have to take refuge from, from evil, take refuge from the slinking whisperer. Okay, it's like the snake in the Garden of Eden, right? And this evil whispers in the breast of humanity, and from spirits and humanity. Okay, I'm gonna what's been difficult for me, for some people, I think, is to distinguish this whisperer from the divine leadings of the thought adjuster. Okay, so I think that is really our principal problem. An individual, an individual have. How do I know? Well, I guess, and the only way to really know is by the fruits you will know them. By the fruits you know them. Otherwise, whatever feels like it's the most convenient approach to a problem, usually, the easy way isn't often the right way, but it's not always. Sometimes we make it harder than it is. There's no real easy way to figure that out. I just suggest, if you sincerely pray for guidance to be able to identify that evil whisperer and to avoid them, I think you're going to be led or protected. But you have to be sincere. You can't be trying to protect yourself, trying to be selfish. It's really hard, though. It can be really hard. And I don't know if any people are there. I just pray that, you're able to get out of whatever situation that you're finding that problem in. But I think a lot of people here, I think it's a common thing. It's not just psychosis or something like that. It's like people are mixed up to the point where we don't know what's real and what's not real. Fake news, QAnon, all these things that are telling us these stories. Okay, we're going to move on here. Secular totalitarianism. Okay, part 8, paper 195. But even after materialism and mechanism have been more or less vanquished, the devastating influence of 20th century secularism will still blight the spiritual experience of millions of unsuspecting souls. Right. The devastating influence of 20th century secularism. Okay, so that means that we have to vanquish everything secular and all this. No, that's not, you know. I think we just have to order this in the proper prioritize things. Jesus said what's secular is secular, right? But what belongs to God belongs to God. What belongs to Caesar belongs to Caesar. Modern secularism has been fostered by two worldwide influences. The father of secularism was the narrow-minded and godless attitude of 19th and 20th century so-called science, aesthetic science. Atheistic science. Atheistic science. The mother of modern secularism was the totalitarian medieval Christian church. Okay, so the Christian church itself is the mother of secularism. Secularism has had its inception as a rising protest against the most complete domination of Western civilization by the institutionalized Christian church. So because that society was so dominated by religion, we had to rebound and have such a secular society that's dominated by secularism. And I don't think that's not it. So these two views of living exist side by side, but they have to be prioritized. The spiritual will um, be above and directive of secular endeavors. I think that's what we need to do. So the values are directive of the moral undertakings, right? Okay, so they don't cancel each other out, right? I think the secular takes direction from the spiritual guidance that's present in all of us, whether you choose to call it that or not, but it's not a thing in itself, right? I think you've seen like the modern materialism, the greed rules all, greed is good principle is a matter of, the secular approach to living. Or even the church, when the church wants to be all powerful and direct human activities on that basis, instead of people living in inspired ways and inspired communities and living out their best, fulfilling their dreams and according to their own personal identities. Instead, when churches restrict that, that's not spiritual. That's not spiritual either. At the time of this revelation, the prevailing intellectual and philosophical climate of both European and American life is decidedly secular humanistic. For 300 years, Western thinking has been progressively secularized. Religion has become more and more a nominal influence, largely a ritualistic exercise. The majority of professed Christians of Western civilization are unwittingly actual secularists. Okay. And I'm still going to maintain that you can be both. You can both, but I think you have to have it in the right order in your mind and in your heart. Okay. There's no reason why Christians can't benefit from secular endeavors. Jesus, this hair is awful. Okay, all right. Okay. It required a great power, a mighty influence to free the thinking and living of the Western peoples from the withering grasp of a totalitarian ecclesiastical domination. Okay, so that was during the Renaissance here. Mighty influence, free thinking and living of the people to free this from the stranglehold that the medieval church had on society then. So that was not good. Yeah. Secularism did break the bonds of church control, and now, in turn, it threatens to establish a new and godless type of mastery over the hearts and minds of modern man. The tyrannical and dictatorial political state is the direct offspring of scientific materialism and philosophic secularism. Secularism no sooner frees man from the domination of the institutionalized church than it sells him into slavish bondage to the totalitarian state. Right. So okay. So I'm seeing here when we're rescues people from the medieval church, the very strict church, then it sells them into like something like the communist, like dictatorship, right? So one thing or another is going to tell you how to think and how to define your relationship with with um with God or with everything else. So right. Secularism frees man from ecclesiastical slavery only to betray him to the tyranny of political and economic slavery. Okay, so it's a different kind of slavery. I totally see that. Capitalism, the same kind of slavery, that economic slavery, okay? And there's not so great a difference between capitalism in its most extreme form and communism in its most extreme form. What we need is a middle ground there. Okay, materialism denies God. Secularism simply ignores him. And at least that was the earlier attitude. More recently, secularism has assumed a more militant attitude, assuming to take the place of the religion whose totalitarian bondage it one time resisted. Okay, so materialism, that means that the whole mechanistic, like our brains are machines, like we're machines and the earth is a machine, everything, the universe is a clockwork mechanism machine. So that denies the God. This whole thing happened by accident, something, tripped, you know what I mean? I don't know, the Big Bang, and then everything just kind of just happened, like a machine. Okay, so secularism ignores him like that, like it doesn't matter. Right. We're putting power structures in play that enslave people's minds instead of liberating them. Secularism has assumed a more militant attitude, like the free market. The whole free market idea has become kind of like a church. Like you can't mess with the free market economy because the market adjusts itself and all of this kind of stuff. So that's this militant attitude that, I don't know. Maybe that's it. That's what I'm getting. What could be the militant attitude of secularism? That your loyalty is to the company you work for instead of the political state you reside in. Okay, 20th century secularism tends to affirm that man does not need God, but beware. This godless philosophy of human society will lead only to unrest, animosity, unhappiness, war, and worldwide disaster. Okay, so we don't, that's what this new secularism is saying. We don't need God. We have these power structures, human, the Superman, can create, things on earth just for, yeah, we don't, who needs to believe in God? We can create all kinds of good things we can be good without believing in God. That's true in a certain way, but not in an ultimate sense. Secularism can never bring peace to mankind. Nothing can take the place of God in human society. But mark you well, do not be quick to surrender the beneficent gains of the secular revolt from ecclesiastical totalitarianism. Okay, so the secular revolution, did good things in that it released people from that ecclesiastical totalitarianism of the Middle Ages. Western civilization today enjoys many liberties and satisfactions as a result of the secular revolt. True. The great mistake of secularism was this: in revolting against the almost total control of life by religious authority, and after attaining the liberation from such ecclesiastical tyranny, the secularists went on to institute a revolt against God himself, sometimes tacitly and sometimes openly. Okay, so we went a little too far with all that, threw out the baby with the bathwater kind of thing. To the secularistic revolt, you owe the amazing creativity of American industrialism and the unprecedented material progress of Western civilization. And because the secularistic revolt went too far and lost sight of God and true religion, there also followed the unlooked for harvest of world wars and international unsettledness. Yep. I get that because okay, it is not necessary to sacrifice faith in God in order to enjoy the blessings of the modern secularistic revolt. That's what I'm saying. Tolerance, social service, democratic government, and civil liberties are those blessings of the secular revolt against ecclesiastical tyranny, right? It was not necessary for the secularists to antagonize true religion in order to promote science and to advance education, right? But secularism is not the sole parent of all these recent gains and the enlargement of living. Behind the gains of the 20th century are not only science and secularism, but also the unrecognized and unacknowledged spiritual workings of the life and teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. Without God, without religion, scientific secularism can never coordinate its forces, harmonize its divergent and rivalrous interests, races, and nationalisms. This secularistic human society, notwithstanding its unparalleled materialistic achievement, is slowly disintegrating. Not so slowly anymore, I feel like. The chief cohesive force resisting this disintegration of antagonism is nationalism, and nationalism is the chief barrier to world peace. Oh, gosh, yep. Yep, we can't have world peace without nationalism. But without nationalism, everything is coming apart, because God, or belief in some kind of spiritual progress, that's unifying, that's harmonizing. Without belief in the common good, the commons, and that, that guy over there over the seas that looks different than me and practices different religion, they really need the same things as I do. We have to take care of him because he's going to take care of me. And this kind of like reciprocation, it everything devolves into just this competition of of and economic competition, and it's not good. The inherent weakness of secularism is that it discards ethics and religion for politics and power. You simply cannot establish the brotherhood of men while ignoring or denying the fatherhood of God, though we all come from the same place. We can't have this brotherhood. That makes sense. That makes sense to me. Because I have to look at my fellow people and say, you're important to um, my family, to my father, and because you're important to God, you're important to me. Secular and secular social and political optimism is an illusion. We can't do it this way. The way we're trying to do it, we can't do it. Without God, neither freedom and liberty nor property and wealth will lead to peace. The complete secularization of science, education, industry, and society can lead only to disaster. During the first third of the 20th century, Urantians killed more human beings than were killed during the whole of the Christian dispensation up to that time. During the first third of the 20th century. It's kind of weird. Okay, what's occurring to me now? Okay, because this revelation came in like the 20s. Okay, which a third of this century would be up through like 1933. Okay, so that's a little bit of projection in there. Okay, but during this little part of the 20th century, Urantians killed more human beings than were killed during the last couple thousand years. Up to that time. And this is only the beginning of the dire harvest of materialism and secularism. Still more terrible destruction is yet to come. Okay, I just want to, terminology, I think, is something we could use an appendix. Just has to do with identifying terms. And I think, you could define materialism and secularization are different but related phenomena. Whether materialism here, I was thinking, okay, this is like related to consumerism and greed and big business, but here they're talking about it related to the concepts of artificial intelligence and like thinking of everything as a mechanism. Trying to think of like attaching, like our thought processes are sure they're associated with our physical brains, but they don't totally reside in our consciousness does not reside in our gray matter, our brain tissue. Okay, that's that idea that consciousness resides in our actual brain matter. Okay, that would be materialism. Okay, and looking at the whole of the world and the universe is just like a clockwork kind of mechanism that's totally impersonal. That's materialism. Okay, secularism is like the denial of God, substituting God and religion for, you know, politics and just scientific theory. Okay, and um, just thinking that you can explain everything and you can build worlds, good worlds based only on philosophy minus the whole idea of God as a parent of us all, right? So that's secularism. You know, you need some real fealty for your fellow man, and not just interested in your own nation or your own power, your own group of people, advancing the interests of your own little group of people. If you want to really advance the standing of all the people of the world, because whatever you're doing against, to promote yourself, yeah. Hi, Kitty is you're gonna pay for it ultimately. Yeah, she's nice. She's a sweetheart. Yes, you say hi to the people. Yeah, she's so pretty. Okay. Well, I'm gonna call it right there. Okay. Thank you very much for listening. And tomorrow we'll do part 9. Okay, we're getting close to the end here. Okay. I love you and you have a good night. Okay. Bye.